My partner faked having cancer, so I wouldn't leave her. She even used fake blood. I always thought I knew people. I believed I could read the signs, detect when someone was hiding something. I guess we all think that until someone proves us wrong in the cruelest and most unexpected way. Her name was Camila, and when I met her, she was everything I thought I needed. Fun, sensitive, attentive, and broken, but not in the obvious way. Not in the way you immediately notice. She was a wound covered with flowers, carefully disguised to look like love. We met at a creative writing workshop. I went because I needed to unlock something inside me. She went because, she said, writing helped her keep from falling apart. From the first day, she sat next to me. She had a magnetic energy, the kind that draws you in and suffocates you at the same time. Soon we started dating. She was intense, very intense. But at the start of falling in love, that intensity is confused with passion. Our relationship progressed quickly. Too quickly. By the third month, she was already talking about marriage. By the fifth, she was living in my apartment. I was in love, yes, but I was also starting to feel that something wasn't right. Camila had uncontrollable crying fits for reasons I couldn't understand. She said she was afraid of losing me, that I was all she had, that her world would collapse if I left. At first, I thought it was an exaggerated expression of love. Then I realized it was dependency disguised as affection. I talked to her. I told her I needed time to understand my feelings, that I didn't want our relationship to be built on fear or guilt. That's when everything changed. One night, while I was at work, she called me crying. She said she had fainted in the shower and there was blood. I rushed home like a madman. I found her in the bathroom, with towels stained a dark red. She was pale, trembling, with swollen eyes. She hugged me tightly and told me she had gone to the doctor weeks ago, and they suspected something serious. Cancer. I felt like the worst human being for thinking about ending the relationship. I went from feeling overwhelmed to feeling guilty, trapped in a situation I didn't understand. I asked her why she hadn't told me anything. She said she didn't want to worry me, that she hoped it would be a false alarm. That was the start of a hell that lasted an entire year. I remember clearly the first time she said she was starting treatment. We were in the kitchen, it was nighttime, and I was making soup. Camila sat at the table, barefoot, wrapped in a blanket like she'd just come out of surgery. She looked at me with dull eyes and said, "Today they confirmed it. The cancer is in my uterus. It's aggressive." I dropped the spoon. The pot overflowed. I felt like everything in the room froze, except for the thick steam fogging up the window. She didn't cry. She looked at me with a strange calm, as if she had rehearsed the scene hundreds of times in her head. After that, every week was a nightmare. She said she had chemotherapy sessions every Thursday. She never allowed me to go with her. Insisted she felt more comfortable alone, that she was ashamed for me to see her so weak. Every Thursday, I dropped her off at a clinic in the south of the city. Every Thursday she went in, and I left with my stomach in knots. When I picked her up, I'd find her with a pale face, eyebrows drawn on with pencil, and fake dark circles that could be wiped off with a wet towel if you weren't paying close attention. One time, I noticed she still had the tag from a new wig stuck under her neck. I gently removed it. She pretended not to know it was there. One day, she came back saying the doctors had given her hope. An expensive new treatment that could improve her chances. She showed me a handwritten invoice, with no letterhead or stamp. I believed her. I sold my motorcycle, my video game console, my collection of books, everything that had sentimental value. She cried when I told her, said she didn't deserve someone so good. The scenes became more theatrical. Once, I found blood in the sink. A thick, bright red. I knelt on the bathroom floor, cleaning with trembling hands. When she came out, she hugged me from behind, crying, saying she couldn't always control the bleeding. The next day, I saw an open bottle of fake blood in the trash. I said nothing. I still couldn't accept what my mind was starting to scream. Her need for control intensified. If I went out with friends, she got sick. If I took too long to reply to a message, she said she'd fainted. One night I got home late due to traffic and found her lying on the bathroom floor, face wet and lips painted blood red. She weakly screamed that she couldn't feel her legs. I carried her to the couch. When I went for my phone to call an ambulance, she begged me not to. "I don't want you to spend more money on me," she said with a trembling smile. I stopped going out. I isolated myself from the world. My whole environment turned gray. My apartment, once full of light and art, became a capsule of fear, with closed curtains and the smell of fake medicine. I kept a notebook where I recorded her symptoms, the names of doctors she gave me, the dates. Something inside me was trying to make sense of it all. One night, while she was sleeping deeply from what she said was a new experimental painkiller, I checked her purse. I found a syringe without a needle, containers with fake labels, and a prescription with her supposed oncologist's name misspelled. I sat there, on the living room floor, feeling like the world was falling apart beneath me, but I still wasn't able to confront her. The next morning, she served me breakfast in bed. She had a warm smile, as if there was nothing strange between us. She told me the treatment was working, but that she felt weaker than ever. She asked me not to go to work that day, to take care of her. I canceled everything. I lay next to her. She closed her eyes and said, "Thank you for loving me even as I die." And I, knowing it was a lie, stroked her fake hair. Everything started to fall apart one night, when my sister called me, on the verge of tears. She said she had seen Camila at a bar, completely healthy, without a wig, dancing with a friend and drinking wine. I refused to believe it. Told her it must have been someone who looked like her, but my sister doesn't lie, and to prove it, she sent me a photo. It was her. Camila. With her long hair, wearing makeup, a glass in hand, and laughing. The impact was brutal. I couldn't sleep that night. I confronted her the next day. Asked her directly if she had gone out. She said no, that she had been asleep all day from the effects of the treatment. She looked me straight in the eyes and lied like a professional actress. My heart wanted to believe her, but my mind no longer could. From that point on, I began to seriously investigate. I called the clinic where she supposedly received chemotherapy. They had no record of a patient with her name. I went in person and asked to speak to someone. Nothing. Not a single one of the doctors she had mentioned existed in the medical system's database. The invoice for the treatment, which I still had, I took to a friend who's a graphic designer. He confirmed it was a digital fake made with internet templates. I came home with a lump in my throat. I felt like an idiot. Like an accomplice. I walked in quietly and found her in front of the mirror, applying fake bruises to her neck. She jumped when she saw me. Tried to explain, mumbled something about side effects. I said nothing. Locked myself in the bathroom and threw up. The following days were a nightmare. I told her I needed space. She cried, screamed, begged on her knees, threatened to end her life. She showed me a letter supposedly written by her doctor, saying she had only a few months left. The paper had spelling mistakes, and was printed on a recycled sheet with smeared ink. I couldn't take it anymore. One night I pretended to leave the house. I hid in the building across the street with the doorman's help. From there, I watched Camila go out with someone else, a man, laughing and holding his hand. She wasn't sick. She didn't have cancer. She was using me. That was the night I decided to take my life back. But I didn't know that exposing her would bring even darker consequences. Exposing the lie wasn't the end. It was the beginning of an invisible war that dismantled me inside. After that night I watched from across the street as Camila left, happy, showing no trace of illness. I entered a kind of emotional retreat. I cut off all contact, blocked her number, and packed her things in boxes I left with the doorman. I thought that would be enough. I was wrong. 3 days later, she showed up at the building. She didn't knock on my door. She knocked on my neighbor's, crying, saying she was worried about me, that I had lost my mind. Said she had terminal cancer, and I had abandoned her in her final stage. The neighbor called me furious. He yelled at me that I was a monster. I realized that, to everyone who didn't know the truth, I was the villain. The rumors began. At the local store, the lady gave me weird looks. The doorman no longer greeted me with the same warmth. A neighbor I really liked sent me a disappointed message. "How could you abandon her now?" she wrote. Camila had managed, with her tears and lies, to build a new narrative. That I was the coward who ran when cancer knocked at her door. I tried to ignore it, but the toll was real. At work, I even heard whispers. Turns out Camila had gone there too. Left a letter for my co-workers. A farewell. Pretended she was preparing to die. And in the text, she hinted that I had emotionally destroyed her. It was the first time I had an anxiety attack. I couldn't sleep. Barely ate. There were days I just sat on the couch, staring at the door, afraid she'd show up with another one of her scenes. And she did. One afternoon, while it rained, she showed up soaked, with a superficial cut on her wrist and a crazed look in her eyes. "Look what you made me do," she shouted from the building's lobby. I called emergency services. But when they arrived, she was already gone. The police told me without evidence, they couldn't do anything. The real blow came later. One of my friends, who had stayed out of it, called me, told me Camila had contacted him, that she showed him fabricated messages, supposed screenshots where I insulted her, and pushed her to self-harm. Messages I never wrote. She used an app to make them. I lost friendships. I lost my peace. I doubted my sanity. I went to therapy. It was my only salvation. I told my therapist everything. She listened attentively and was the first person to tell me that what I had experienced was emotional abuse. That Camila suffered from a disorder, and though it didn't excuse her, it explained her need to manipulate to avoid being abandoned. Therapy helped me start to rebuild, but the environment was still stained. I couldn't walk around calmly without thinking someone was judging me for what they believed they knew. So I left. I left the apartment, changed my number, moved to a new city, started from scratch, and just when I thought I had escaped the madness, I received an email from an anonymous address, an attachment, a recording, Camila's voice, talking to someone else, laughing, saying, "I don't know how that idiot didn't figure it out sooner." I devoured him alive. That's when I knew she had done it before. When I found the recording where Camila mocked me, something inside me broke for good. It wasn't just the confirmation that she had manipulated me. It was the tone, the lightness with which she talked about everything. I felt dehumanized, like I had been just another pawn in a game she knew how to play far too well. I sat in front of the screen for hours, replaying the recording over and over again, searching in her voice for any sign of regret. There was none. I spent days torn between two impulses, to expose her or to leave it all behind. The first made my blood boil, made me imagine headlines, posts, a kind of public justice that would reveal who she really was. The second was the wiser choice, but also the hardest, because it meant accepting that the damage was already done, and that I would carry it with me for a long time. Therapy, which until then had been a refuge, became a battlefield. My psychologist encouraged me to think of myself, of my healing, but I couldn't stop thinking about how many other people might have been victims. What if someone couldn't get out? What if someone ended their life because of her? I started searching online. With the little information I had about her, I found traces. An old profile private, another under a different name, cross comments on emotional support forums. I discovered a girl in another city who had written on a blog about a woman who manipulated her by pretending to have a terminal illness. The story had too many similar details. I gathered the courage and wrote to her. She took a while to respond, but when she did, she confirmed that her name was Camila. She had used a different last name, a different context, a different excuse, but the same strategy. We called each other. We talked for more than 2 hours. Both stories intertwined like pieces of the same puzzle. She had ended up in a psychiatric hospital because of the post-traumatic stress. She had been in treatment for years, and she was still afraid that Camila would find her. That was when the dilemma became unbearable. Stay silent for my peace, or speak out for others. Relive the trauma to expose her, or protect my process. Then I made a mistake. I believed I could be fair and discreet at the same time. I contacted someone who had been close to Camila, someone who still spoke to her. I told them everything, calmly, with proof, hoping they could keep her away from more victims. That person thanked me, and a week later, Camila called me from an unknown number. "So now you're a vigilante," she said with that calm voice of hers that hurt more than a scream. "You want to ruin me? What more do you want from me? You already took everything." I stayed silent. My heart was pounding. She wasn't crying, she wasn't apologizing. She was just manipulating. As always, she accused me of harassment, of being obsessed with her. She told me that if I kept getting involved in her life, she'd make me regret it. And she did. A few days later, someone hacked my social media. They posted fake things, edited photos, made up stories. I was able to stop it in time, but not without consequences. It was my sister who asked me to stop. "No more, please. You've suffered enough. It's not worth it." But what is the right thing when you're trapped between a thirst for justice and a desire to forget? I felt morally obligated to warn others, but emotionally incapable of continuing to fight that war. The anxiety came back stronger. I had to quit my job. I checked into a mental health clinic for 2 weeks. There, a psychiatrist told me something that still echoes in my mind. Victims are not obligated to save future victims. Your responsibility is to yourself. And yet at night, when everything is silent, I wonder if that folder I found, full of profiles and names, shouldn't be given to someone. The police. A journalist. Someone who knows what to do with that truth, because I no longer know if I want to keep being the protagonist of this story. I just want to be someone who sleeps peacefully. After months of trying to forget, of therapy sessions, of failed attempts to start over, I met someone. Her name was Julia. She had nothing to do with Camila. She was calm, reserved, and smiled with her eyes. We met in a small downtown bookstore. I was flipping through a book about film when she approached and asked if I had already read it. I answered yes automatically, and before I knew it, We were talking about Kubrick, Goddard, Nolan. I felt alive again. I tried to be honest from the beginning, though with boundaries. I told her I was coming out of a very painful relationship, that I needed to take it slow. Julia understood. She didn't pressure me. She gave me space. We shared coffee, movies, quiet walks. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like someone wanted to devour me emotionally. With her, it was different. She treated me like a human being, not an emotional crutch. 3 months passed. Just when I felt stronger, more whole. It happened. A white envelope, no return address, in the mailbox of my new apartment. Inside a photo. Julia. Me. A snapshot from one of our outings. And a phrase written in red marker. You've marked her too. I froze. Looked around. As if Camila might emerge from the bushes. But there was no one. Just that silence that hurts when it becomes a witness to threats. I didn't tell Julia. I didn't want her to run. But the paranoia returned like a hurricane. I began checking windows, looking under the car, analyzing every new account that followed me online. It wasn't life. It was constant emotional surveillance. One night, Julia invited me to her house. She cooked pasta with basil, her specialty. We were having wine when she said, I've noticed something's worrying you. Is it about your ex? I went silent. She looked down. Because a few days ago, I got this. She pulled a wrinkled envelope from her purse. Inside, another photo. Julia alone, at the cafe where she worked. He'll break you like he did me. He has the abandonment virus. That's when I broke. I told her everything. From the beginning. The cancer, the lies, the fake blood, the recording, the attempt at revenge, the consequences. Julia listened in silence. In the end, she just said, Thank you for not running from me too. That night, I slept beside her, and woke up with her hair on my chest, with a peace I hadn't felt since before Camila. But peace doesn't last long. The following week, Camila disappeared. Literally. Her phone was disconnected. No one knew anything. Her mother, whom I contacted out of desperation, told me she hadn't seen her in months. She said Camila had left a strange note, with names and dates, talking about an emotional network, about people who didn't understand her, about a supposed journal she would deliver someday. And at the end of the letter, there was a dark stain, fake blood. Again, the police didn't take my statement. There's no crime, they said. She was an adult, no criminal record. No witnesses. Just rumors. Photos. Letters. Manipulation without consequences. Until I found the journal, a compressed folder, in my email, sent from an unknown account. Inside, files with names, images, chat screenshots, full stories. All the same. Camila pretending to have terminal illnesses. Cancer, leukemia, HIV. Sometimes with men. Sometimes with women. Always the same pattern. Pity, dependence, manipulation, trauma. I felt dizzy. Like the floor was disappearing beneath me. I saw my story repeated again and again, with different skin, different name, same wound. The most recent file was about Julia. Photos of us. Screenshots of our conversations. She was already on the list. I couldn't take it anymore. I told Julia everything. I showed her the files. I told her I didn't know if Camila was still alive, if she was close, if she was watching us. Julia cried. But she didn't leave. She hugged me so tightly that I felt maybe, finally, someone understood my pain without using it against me. We decided to report it. Not to catch her. We knew it was unlikely, but to leave a record. So if another victim showed up, there would be documentation. I felt exposed. Weak. But also, for the first time, a little free. The last night I dreamed of Camila, we were in a white hallway. She wore a hospital gown but didn't look sick. She smiled at me. Not kindly. With pity. She said, You thought you were strong, but you're mine. You were always part of the script. I woke up screaming. Julia held my hand. She didn't say anything. Just held on. That morning, I received another envelope. Inside a USB stick. And a note. This is the last thing. Use it or destroy it. Your decision. I haven't opened it. Yet. But I know I will. Because I'm not the only character in this story. Camila wasn't a woman. She was a network. A shadow with a face. And I still don't know if this is over, or just beginning.